Yoda's species is one of the most powerful in the Star Wars galaxy, and no one has ever been allowed to know why. It has no name, it has no homeworld, it has no recorded history, no origin story, and no explanation for how a single bloodline produced the greatest Jedi in tens of thousands of years of galactic history. Every single known member of Yoda's species was a powerful Force user, not one in 1,000, not a gifted few, every one of them. The films never answer why, so they leave behind a single strange question. In nearly every species in the galaxy, the Force is a gifted handed to a scattered few. It chose a child here, a prodigy there, and leaves billions of ordinary beings untouched. Yoda's kind were different. In the canon guide Star Wars: The Complete Visual Dictionary, the Grandmaster is named as part of a rarely seen species, and the entry is blunt about what set them apart. Every known member has been a Force user, and every one of them have served the Jedi. That held true long before Yoda was ever born. In older stories, the ones once told as part of the expanded universe and now labelled legends, the same kind of beings kept servicing at the height of the Jedi's power. In the game Knights of the Old Republic, a master named Vandar Tokare led a Jedi enclave thousands of years before the Clone Wars, trusted for his calm judgment and his gift for sensing danger before it arrived. Other tales from that same era carried the identical picture. One of his kind, Oteg rose to Jedi Master and Fleet Commander. Another, a Jedi Knight named Minch, struck down a fallen Darkside warrior on his own, centuries before the Old Master ever took a seat on the Council. The eras changed, the settings changed, the results never did. In this species, power in the Force ran through everyone, as ordinary among them as breathing. But being able to touch the Force is only half of it. These beings had something no human Jedi would ever possess: time, and centuries of it. The proof looked nothing like a power at all. In The Mandalorian, a creature of the same species appeared in the care of a lone gunfighter. His name is Grogu. Small ears, wide eyes, tiny hands reaching up from a floating crib. But he was no baby, he was 50 years old. Meanwhile, a human is middle-aged at 50. Grogu's kind ages so differently that they spend their first 50 years as helpless infants. At that age, he could not speak. He needed to be carried. He slept in a crib. They reach full adulthood only around 100, and from there, they live for many centuries. For a Jedi, the single fact changes the math entirely. A human student gets a few short decades of training. The Grandmaster had 800 years. By his own accounts, in the film The Empire Strikes Back, Yoda trained Jedi across 8 of those centuries. When he finally reached his end, he was 900 years old. Yaddle was younger, and still ancient by any normal measure, 477 years old, at that time of the invasion of Naboo. So, this was never one lifetime of practice, stacked against an enemy's single lifetime. It was 10 lifetimes folded into one mind. Every insight, every technique, every mistake kept and sharpened across spans of time most beings never come close to living. Centuries of practice can turn a gifted student into something the galaxy has never measured. When the older master finally showed what that looked like, he did it by catching lightning in his bare hands. The moment came in Attack of the Clones. Count Dooku, a Jedi Master who abandoned the Order and fell to the dark side, stood across a hangar from the small green figure. He raised both hands, and white lightning tore across the room. Most fighters would have been finished right there. Yoda simply lifted a hand and caught it. The Grandmaster absorbed the first bolt, then a second, holding raw Sith energy without harm, until the fallen Jedi gave up on lightning altogether and drew his blade. It was the same control he had shown on the swamp world of Dagobah. Luke Skywalker had crashed his X-Wing into the bog and given up on it. Certain it was too heavy to move, Yoda closed his eyes, lifted the entire machine free, and set it down gently on the solid ground. Size he taught meant nothing. But Yoda was not the only member of his kind to wield something rare. Yaddle mastered the Force light, the ability to banish the dark side not just around her, but within other beings. It was a power even Yoda was never said to summon. She was also one of the only beings in history to be trusted with Morocro, the touch of death, the ability to slow a living body from the inside until the target sank into sleep, or a frozen state, or just simply stopped. And Vandar, thousands of years earlier, had dual-wielded 2 Shoto lightsabers through the Force alone, a feat very few Jedi had ever managed, alongside rarer gifts, still healing, Tutanamis, and the ability to sever another's connection to the Force entirely. One species, 3 different eras, the same impossible ceiling. Yet every one of those feats belonged to a master with centuries of training. The most startling proof of what this species truly was came from someone who had been trained by no one at all. The lone Mandalorian bounty hunter who had taken in a 50-year-old child was concerned by a mudhorn, a horned beast the size of a small vehicle, charging hard enough to trample them both. A Jedi still in training had strained and failed to move the same creature. This untrained infant lifted it on pure instinct. Grogu raised both hands, the mudhorn froze in the air, legs still kicking, and then it dropped. The effort knocked him unconscious for hours. No master had trained him, no one had shown him how to reach for that power. It came to him anyway, and it kept emerging in forms every seasoned Jedi rarely manage. When a companion lay near death from a deep wound, the child pressed a hand to it and healed him, closing a wound that should have been beyond saving. When a soldier turned a stream of fire on the group, the child caught the flames in his open hands and pushed them back. His instincts were not always gentle. During a friendly arm wrestling contest, the foundling briefly closed a Force grip around a warrior's throat before the adults pulled him off. The same choking power the dark side is known for, used with no grasp or what it meant. For a creature with no teacher, that raised a simple question: where did he come from? The infant had been raised at the Jedi Temple on Coruscant, as one of the many younglings in its care. Then came the night the Jedi fell, as clone soldiers turned on the generals and stormed the halls. A Jedi named Caloran Beck fought his way through them, took the child, and escaped the planet. The years that followed are almost left blank, but the young one lived, carrying the same power that runs through his whole kind. So the question stops being about talent, it becomes about what this species actually is, and whether anything else in the galaxy can match it. One other species could touch the Force just as completely, if they were not alone in that. The real question becomes what set Yoda's people apart at all. The other species had no eyes. The Miraluka looked almost human, except where a human has eyes, they had smooth skin. They did not see light, they sensed the world entirely through the Force, reading the shapes and living things around them without ever opening an eye. Every single Miraluka is born able to touch the Force, without exception. On the surface, the Miraluka looked like one of the species that matches Yoda's people. Nearly everything known about them belongs to legends. Within those stories, the Miraluka could sense the Force, but sensing it is not the same as commanding it. That is the very different thing from lifting a starship, absorbing lightning, or sitting on the Jedi High Council as one of the strongest members. Every known member of the Yoda species did the second kind of thing. This may not be the only species where every member could touch the Force. It may be the only one where every known member became a powerful Jedi. The galaxy's other giants were lone standouts of otherwise ordinary species. Palpatine, the most powerful Dark Lord of his age, was human. His own master, Darth Plagueis, was a Mun, a tall, thin species known for her banking and finance. Anakin, the boy with the highest recorded count of any Jedi, was human too. Each one of them was a remarkable soul, born among billions of ordinary ones. With Yoda's people, the same level of power seems to have been where everyone started. No rival species truly matches them, which leaves the one question that the galaxy never got to answer: where these creatures came from, and why no one was ever allowed to find out. There is a single image of this species that was never meant to survive. It appeared on a collectible card printed in the mid-1990s. It showed a group of creatures kneeling in worship before a tall statue of one of their own, heads bowed like worshippers before an idol. Almost as soon as the card was printed, it was pulled and ordered out of the circulation. The company behind it recalled the entire run of orders from above. A few copies escaped before they could be all gathered up, which is the only reason anyone knows this image ever exists. It was buried for the same reason the rest of the species remains blank. George Lucas decided very early that these beings would never be explained. He later admitted plainly that he had never worked out where their old master came from, or even settled on a name for his kind. Yoda was meant to be a mystery, who walks in the story, teaches, and walks back out carrying no background at all. Long after, Jon Favreau held to the exact same rule. He described Yoda as a character always wrapped in mystery, remembered for what he stood for, rather than where he came from. And he said that's precisely why so many people became fascinated by the small newcomer of the same kind. The not knowing was never an accident, it was the plan. That plan held everywhere. Lines written for the films that would have touched on the species were cut. The expanding universe ran for decades and dreamed up thousands of worlds and people, yet it never named this one, and never found out its homeworld. When the first alien guidebook finally tried to include them, it had a list them with no species names, and no world of origin, an empty space where every other entry had answers. None of it works alone. Every known member can touch the Force. Each one lives for centuries, folding lifetimes of mastery into one mind. The power runs so deep that an untrained infant can do what trained knights struggle to manage. And the origin of all of it was sealed away on purpose, so that no bloodline, no formula, no map to a homeworld could ever shrink it into something ordinary. Yoda's people were the only ones for whom command of the Force was simply what they were, but that mystery was hiding something far darker than a lost name or a missing homeworld. That's where we end today's video. If you made it this far, I hope you enjoyed. Also, make sure to leave a comment down below. Don't forget to hit that like button and subscribe, and I'll see you in the next video.